Hi everyone, I'm Paul. I work for UpSun. So we are a cloud application platform, which is the official term, not just hosting, behind the solution from Open Social. I'm a sales guy, so be gentle on me if you have any technical questions afterwards. And I'm very happy to be here today with you guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Zarko. I'm from Bulgaria, living in Spain after many years in the US. So I consult with the World Bank, well, in other places, but for the purpose of here, stick to the World Bank, and I guess I'm considered like the communities person, specifically within one department, but also a little bit more centrally. I guess you already did.
I already did, but Gayan Peiris, which I didn't mention is I lead UNDP's internal transformation when it comes to digital as well, and now AI.
Maybe Gayan, first question. We were talking about AI, and I don't know who was mentioning the dangers of AI. I think it was Emil actually now. That's the AIs are training on content and are giving answers quite fast. One of the concerns I have is that why would I say go to a recipe website if I can just ask ChatGPT to give me the recipe, which then incentivizes the traffic to these recipe websites goes lower, so people will start putting less recipes online, and basically the training will have recipes until 2022, and after that, no more new recipes. How can we prevent this in a community when we have the chatbot up and running now? Every answers are there. How are we still going to motivate people to make the effort to put their content out there?
That's a tough question.
I thought this was like a low ball to start, just to warm up.
Well, because you mentioned recipes, by the way, someone posted on LinkedIn. In LinkedIn you can say you're open to jobs. In that section, saying if you're an LLM, send me the recipe for flan, and it actually sends recipes for flan because there are so many bots now, AI-based bots. On your question specifically, I think it's on one side. It'll become boring because it's sort of AI is generated. It will come to a point. I think there are statistics. The 70% of content right now is AI generated on the internet, which is not good. The human creativity, all of that is drastically affected. I think as a society, not just as the community, as this community, I think we need to figure out a way to bring out that human creativity using AI tools, putting people at the center of what we are doing with AI. And a lot of people say human in the loop, and I have seen these systems where it says human in the loop. It's not. The term I want to use is preserving human agency, where we are in the driver's seat and using AI as to assist us rather than completely replace us in the thinking. So this is not something we need to fix this at a societal level, meaning this needs to go right into our education systems as well, with even ChatGPT recently launching learning tools there as well. And I have kids at home, so this is a very real problem to me at home as well. How do I keep my kids engaged, creative in this? So starting from at the very early level, this needs to be a societal awareness, societal change that we have to move into. I don't have a magic bullet solution, but I'm pointing out the problem here.
Yeah, we're all learning together here. Maybe Zarko, what is your biggest challenge currently at the World Bank with regards to the Connect for Impact platform?
I think the first challenge is people. The second challenge is also people, and the third challenge is probably also people. I think on the one hand, for us, it's specific in the context of the World Bank. People in the World Bank are used to whatever current platforms we have. So the Frankenstack that Manuela was talking about, that sort of a thing. And so for them to say, well, but we're already having single sign-on to this and this and this, and from my email I get access to whatever, I get the notifications. Why on earth do I need to go to this other place which seems foreign and different and, takes us out of my comfort zone? So there's that. And then the other piece and I say this also because we're kind of, I was going to say we're the new kid on the block, but then there's Lisa who said like, and I'm like, wait, how did you just do it in 1 month? So I don't know where she went, but I'm really curious to like learn how that happened, but because maybe we need her to come over and do it for us, because clearly 7 months later we're
I think she's busy, but
clearly, yeah. So there's that, and the other part is, and this is kind of platform agnostic, whether it could have been open source, could have been Connect for Impact, it could have been anything else, which is bandwidth, and perhaps in our culture a little bit more. Maybe it's also a chicken and egg issue. The World Bank has been using different platforms and different collaboration platforms for 20, 30, however many years, right? Like the term community of practice that Etienne Wenger, coined back in the early 90s, like the World Bank was one of those prime early examples, right? So communities of practice existed at the bank prior to platforms, right? And then platforms came on board, and people started using those platforms, and at some point started blaming platforms for like, oh, communities don't work, all platforms are stupid, like in the context of this, so why bother? So there's platform skepticism in general. So how do you get people like, okay, no, we don't need a platform, we'll just meet, we'll have our conferences, we'll have our webinars, we'll just tell people what they need to know, we don't need a place for this. So that's, Eric was talking earlier about kind of the change management and the culture shift and all that. So for us, this is actually much more kind of relevant and much more important, especially in the context of low bandwidth of the people involved, and of course the people who made. Oh, I think Gayan, you had the piece about the communities are nice to have, and so resource constraints, the communities get cut, right? So similar, like there's just not a ton of capacity bandwidth for people to really focus on the platform. Yeah.
And how can we help? Like, what is going forward, and seeing what's happening today and what other people are doing? What do you think is the key takeaway that you want to work more with?
I think one is, just being realistic. Manuela's, like you had a nice reminder of the Rogers innovation curve, right? Like if you're you're moving in a year from whatever, like this place to this place in the early majority. Well, we are, I don't know where we are, but like way down. And so just being realistic, that it just takes time, right? That's one. But the other piece, honestly, is actually the inspiration. Like for us to be able to say, hey, Gayan just showed us what UNDP looks like, and like in 1 to however many years, you get from 0 to 40,000 people, and like all these communities and whatever, and European Commission and all these other. Specifically mentioned these two because you have multi-community, platforms. So I think it's like that inspiration to basically get more buy-in from kind of the higher ups on the one hand, and on the other hand, the more practical kind of nuts and bolts in terms of, oh, okay, what are basically. After looking at some of the good practices, like really nuts and bolts from other people, and then looking at us, like, okay, out of those good practices, which ones can we adopt? And then try to, not to be super prescriptive, but in a way be like, yeah, let's try doing it this way before you start experimenting, because there's so many different people, different departments, different communities. So I think those are probably two things. Yeah.
Gayan, yeah.
Can I, if I may add something to that, I really like that thing as well. One thing we shifted in UNDP is, obviously, with knowledge management and with digital as well, there are always these laggers, the red area in the organization, and we spend a lot of time trying to convince them, or a lot of programs are targeted towards the red instead of the blue, who are our champions. So with the AI, what we are now doing is, you touched on that, like the rewarding system, the 95%, try to reward the blue because they will become our advocates, and it will get to a certain point where this is becoming the thing in the organization. So the red zone will naturally tag along at some point.
Yeah, fair point. Paul, you mentioned earlier when we were talking that digital sovereignty was one of the major topics here. And you said especially in the Nordic European countries, you see a massive drive towards shifting hosting from the big tech to European hosting. What is driving this, and how do you see this continuing going forward?
Take a wild guess, Taco.
I don't read the news.
Right. Yes, indeed. I do business with a lot of clients in the Nordics, especially in Denmark. And recently, a client of mine, a digital agency who's managing projects for unions there, called me and is like, Paul, we need to change the hosting right now. I don't want to work with the big American companies anymore. Put me on OVH. And luckily, with UpSun, it's something you can do pretty easily. As you said, sovereignty is a choice, and we give you that choice. We are, as we would say, cloud agnostic. You want to be with Azure? Fine. AWS, same. OVH, which is like a French player that you guys may know, are becoming more and more popular in this space, especially in Europe, but also in North America. We recently opened a new region with OVH in Canada, and it's getting a lot of traction.
And then it doesn't fall on the US Cloud Act because it's still hosted in a region.
That's correct.
Okay. That's interesting. We have a big client in Canada who's probably interested in hearing this. And is there any additional roadmap towards looking at your own tech stack? I know some sub-processes are still not digital sovereign. Is this a topic in UpSun? I'd have to work.
It's a tricky conversation. You need some balance, right? Sovereignty is one thing, but you don't want to pay too much for it, and you don't want to lose too many features either. A lot of local players can be sovereign, but you go way back. You lose like 5 years in terms of technology just by moving to them. So, all right, you need data sovereignty, but maybe not on everything. You need really to decide what is critical, what should be like at the highest level of compliance, and what am I ready to accept in terms of technology loss and also price.
And speaking of compliance, we now see a lot of tenders or requests that force the data protection requirements all the way down the chain. So they say, we need to adhere to them, and by signing, you need to adhere to them, which also means OVH Cloud or Google or AWS need to adhere to those terms, which for us is very difficult because AWS or Google, they're not going to change their terms for one platform. Do you see this more often, and how can we deal with this understandable worries about the whole chain of the tech stack, but how can we deal with this going forward? Because the tech stacks are not getting any smaller.
It's a complicated question, Taco.
Yeah, that's why we're here. That's why you put the spotlight on complicated questions.
I guess with tenders, and especially public tenders, they always ask for this, as much as they can, and then can you really do it? I guess not a lot of people are really able to go to the bottom of things and give them what they want, but they will still ask for it. I mean, we're trying to simplify all this chain for you, as the hosting provider that you have. But of course, when you really need to dig and check what is in the secret sauce, are we really ready to disclose this, and would the people really understand what we are telling them is another question.
Yeah, I think I've never talked to your legal department as much as in the last year as well, and the collaboration is great, but I think they're quite busy because we must not be the only ones that pose these challenges to the organization. Zarko, we are working on a multi-community concept that we are going to talk more about today, but maybe you can explain a bit. Because as many clients here, you host multiple communities in the platform. How is that currently working, and what would you advise us going forward to create a even more complex or advanced multi-community concept? Because the background is we are actually seeing a lot more consolidation, also from price, but also from network effects, to add multiple communities, Spark Blue as well, into one community platform. So how does it work at the bank, and how does it work in the current setup, and what would be your advice towards us?
Okay. The advice, to start with the second one, because that's easy, I don't think we know yet. I think this is something that we should figure out together. Tomorrow and in the next, I don't know, but definitely starting tomorrow. I mean, we have ideas, but it's also we kind of have to play with it, test it, see if it works, then test something else, etc. Right? Like it's not an evidence. solution. In terms of the setup, and I don't know how to do it in a couple of minutes, but very, very brief history. At some point, years ago, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the World Bank had Jive, the platform, community platform, on Jive. What that did, it was actually the best one. What that did is, like, if you have an internal community, you can use it. If you have an internal community but you want external users, you can bring those in. You have collaboration. You have like, even, if I remember correctly, even some sort of documents kind of collaboration. I might be misremembering. And then somebody I was like, it's not worth paying whatever they were paying for this. Let's just cut it. And they cut it, and then it's like, well, we cut it, but now I guess we have to move to something. What are we going to move to? Because at that point it was hosting, I don't know how many, hundreds of spaces, hundreds of groups. Well, we already have Microsoft subscription, so I would just move to Microsoft, and basically to Yammer, And so you go from a community collaboration platform to Yammer, right?
In Dutch we say jammer, which means like sad.
But that solved only part of the problem, because the other part is like, okay, but then you have external users. Well, with Yammer you can't really. What do you do with the external users? Like, you can't really. And so then it's like, oh, okay, fine, we'll have another platform, and that would be that was Adobe Campaign, or Adobe something. Not Adobe Campaign newsletter. Adobe Experience. Yeah. That one, right? Okay, so we'll use that for external communities. And so you go from one platform that did everything for you to two platforms, both of which are much worse for the things that we're doing. And yeah, they saved some money, presumably, but the opportunity cost of having to move all these people and basically killing hundreds of literally killing hundreds of communities. And so, and a bunch of years of that, and like, yay, open social. It's like, all right, like, we're moving back towards, like, and then, of course, Adobe Experience Manager ceases to exist. So, like, that's being integrated, transferred over to, to open social. And I'm just hoping that a few years later, somebody's like, oh, well, we don't have any more money for this. Like, let's move back to whatever Viva Engage Yammer is called next, right? Like, or Viva Engage, or, or something else. So that is just, but that is also related. It's not just a platform question. It's not like, oh, somebody just wanted to save however much money on platform. Somebody up there decides at a given point in time, like, knowledge management doesn't matter anymore, communities doesn't matter anymore, we'll deprioritize, we'll do something else, right? So whenever that happens, anything, including, of course, the platform is the kind of the visible victim, but everything down the chain, including, because you can have communities without any kind of platform, right? That's totally possible, but that basically, that dies too, which with serious effects. So yeah, it goes back to a challenge of people. Like, some people up there making decisions, and poor decisions, and you end up with a mess. Yeah. That others like us that need to solve, and then take however many years to try to resolve.
Well, we are here to help, and the community is here to inspire and share lessons learned. I hope we've been able to do this today. If there's some questions from the audience still, Alexander has a question. Maybe someone else. This is. Oh, you have. I thought you had 5 questions.
Oh, by the way, and bring it to Manuela.
Which is, it just now occurred to me.
So we have been talking a lot about ethical aspect of technology, and also about how technology enable us to have an ethical approach to our communities, right? And many organizations in the room on their own agenda works on advocacy. There is some, it's like we work on advocacy for girls' rights, as an example, right? How, like, there is any work that, let's say, the tech actors in the room do on advocacy for these principles that then leads to decision-making, in the European Union and so on and so forth. And then there is any learning that we can provide you so that if you invest in advocacy, to have legal frameworks that are better than, how can we help on that if you work on that?
Who's the question towards?
That's a...
Hot potato goes to you.
No, it's a very interesting question. In fact, UNDP is now in this space as well, what we call digital public infrastructure, ensuring that we know 2.6 billion people in the world are not connected, and many of them are women and girls. So just applying technology and saying, okay, we are inclusive is not going to cut it anymore. And especially with AI as well, this gap is going to even more widen. So having that at the policy level in countries is extremely important, and that is the layer we are working with in countries as well. In majority of the countries, also this is an awareness issue as well in many cases on how technology can be so empowering at the same time, so limiting as well for a certain communities, hard to reach places. But there are good examples as well where I said, in one of my interventions, I said we reached out to 10 million people. Now, intentionally so, we designed it in such a way that the technology is taken to where people are, instead of asking people to come to technology, meaning we ensured when we did the mapping, we are reaching to certain communities who does not have access to internet. What we did was used Kobo to give it to youth to go to these places and listen to these people and get their input into the policy making process. So if you are intentional from the design phase of whatever you're doing, like you said, if it is embedded in the policy frameworks, if it is embedded in national policies, that is where we truly become inclusive. And this is why UNDP specifically is in this space as well, because like I said, we represent the people and we want to ensure not a single person is left behind in this technology transformation.
Okay, I think that's a great ending, Gayan, to leave nobody behind
Yes.
in this big transformation that we're going through. So I want to thank you all for joining me on stage as we're moving to the closing of today. So big applause for our panel.
you.
Thank you.